So the main reason I wanted to see this was the cast, which includes Isabelle Huppert, Marissa Tomei and Brendan Gleeson. And the cast didn't disappoint, but neither did anyone really surprise me. They all gave very solid performances, nothing more, nothing less. So I definitely can't complain about that aspect, but I also feel like I've seen them all do better. But anyway, the story here follows a group of family and friends on a bit of a get-together in a small town in Portugal. Isabelle Huppert plays a famous actress and she's sort of the matriarch. She's the one who invited them all there and she's essentially the driving force behind the whole thing. But the interesting thing about this is that I wouldn't necessarily say that she's the focus of the movie. She's sort of at the center of it all, but I don't feel like anyone really is the main character here. Just because there are so many characters in this, all dealing with their own stuff. And I feel like the movie kind of divided up the screen time pretty equally between them all. And no one really felt more important than anyone else. They all matter in the grand scheme of things. And at the end of the day, I would call this some sort of a family drama, I guess. One which isn't really very plot heavy. I mean, there is a very bare bones plot underneath it all. But the focus here is on the characters and their relationship with each other. And the vast majority of this movie is people walking around talking. That's basically all of it, and I could see some people finding that boring. Because it's also a very toned down and subtle movie. It's not melodramatic at all. I mean, I would even go as far as to say that the drama is almost understated. That's the kind of movie this is. And that's not gonna appeal to certain people, and I definitely get that. But for me personally, it worked. I liked it well enough and I had no real issues with it at all. I don't think it's anything super special or maybe even all that memorable, but it did have a few really good moments in it and the rest of it was just really solid. But while I was watching it, I couldn't help but to feel like it reminded me of some other movie. But it took me a while to figure out which one, and it turns out it's actually a mix of a few different movies. Like the overall feel and style with all of these characters and all of their individual drama, and the emphasis on dialogue, reminded me a lot of a Woody Allen movie. Except this is nowhere near as fast-paced or hectic or even as funny. It's more of a grounded and toned-down approach to a similar thing. And the other thing it reminded me of was Linklater's Before trilogy, especially the last movie, probably because in that one they're also abroad in a similar setting. But again, this did its own thing and took a slightly more serious and dramatic approach to it. And it ended up being nowhere near as quick and witty as those movies. But there is still a bit of humor in this as well, it's not entirely devoid of comedy. It's just not as pronounced, and again, it's just a lot more toned down and subtle as well. And while I know that might not work for some people, it worked well enough for me. I would also like to add that from a technical perspective, it's perfectly fine too. Although the filmmaking here definitely doesn't draw attention to itself. And it doesn't do anything overly clever or creative for the most part either. However, it did have a few moments that I very much appreciated in that regard as well. But overall, I thought the movie was fine and I didn't mind it at all. However, would I recommend it? If you like these kind of dramas that don't try to cram in a bunch of unnecessary nonsense in them, sure. But if you want melodrama and a lot of stuff happening, you can probably skip this. Or you can do whatever you want. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.